Thank you. And people coming in should get a message as well. So, welcome everybody. This is an event organised, it's our first event actually, by the StatusNow regional group for the Midlands, which covers East and West Midlands. And what we would like to do is to have a way of celebrating International Migrants Day, which is actually today. We'll hear a bit more about International Migrants Day later on, and we'll hear a little bit about StatusNow, a bit more about StatusNow later on as well. And we did think about different ways of setting up this event, whether we wanted to have a lot of speakers, but eventually we decided it would be rather nice to hold it as a I was from Yorkshire and we used to call it an at home, which is where we are very Midlands based and we've got an open floor. People can come and talk. There are one or two people here who have definitely got something to tell us. But if you're not one of those and you would like to speak, then there's likely to be time for you to just share some of your thoughts as well as we go on. So I'm hoping that's okay with everybody, but we just thought it might be a nice, well, it's kind of friendly. So just to let you know a little bit about StatusNow, I think quite a few of the people looking at the list of names, quite a few of the people who are on that list are people who, I'm just going to mute Faith. Quite a lot of the people who are on the list are people who belong to organisations that are signatories of StatusNow. Briefly, it started in March, March last year at the beginning of the pandemic, and we stand over a call for people who don't have settled status to be given indefinite leave to remain now as the most effective, reasonable, fair, humane way of enabling everyone to feel safe in these very difficult times. So I'll leave it for Faith to say more about that in a little while. My name's Sheila Mosley. I belong to the Quaker Asylum and Refugee Network and I represent them on the StatusNow group. So StatusNow is made up of organisations that have signed up to our call, and every organisation has somebody that is our contact, and together the contacts make up the reference group. So that's how I come to be here today. Right, so we haven't got an order written down, but I'm going to start off by asking, maybe I'll ask Faith if she would like to speak first. And after Faith, I'm going to ask Tony to speak, which will set us up for the introduction to StatusNow and also to the International Migrants Day and what it's all about. Okay, so Faith, if you'd like to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Faith. I'm an executive of an organization in Birmingham called BARA, Birmingham Asylum and Refugee Association. We're based in Birmingham. And I'm also part of the StatusNow network. Now, at BARA is one of the signatories of StatusNow, which is why I'm here. BARA has lots of members. It has been I have been with a member of BARA for about 9 years now, and we have members from all over the world, but we are all based in West Midlands. Now, we also work a lot with other organizations that are based in West Midlands. Most of our members are undocumented. They are homeless, others, and then others are asylum seekers. So we try to make our organization like a home where people can have a drop in, where we can all sit down and just talk about our situations, because whether you're undocumented or you're an asylum seeker or you anything, you're still a migrant in this country. So we try and make it as homely as possible, just so that people can at least feel at home. We meet at St. Martin's Community Center in City Center, and that is where we meet every fortnight and just talk about our experiences. Now, BARA joined StatusNow network in April last year because we believe in the call for StatusNow, because they call for StatusNow for all. So they're not choosing people. StatusNow is accommodating everyone who is fighting a status a battle in this country, which is the reason why then Para joined StatusNow. So we encourage other organizations as well in the Midlands to join StatusNow, because StatusNow, the call that StatusNow is calling is very, very clear to say whether people are undocumented or people are asylum seekers, they all deserve to be welcome in this country. We all deserve to call this country our home, especially we've all been here for many years. Para has, our longest serving member, Miriam, has been a member of, has been in the asylum system for 21 years now. And I've been in the asylum system for almost 9 years. So it's very, very important that we support StatusNow, because uh, it, it's time that we all given status. We all need it so that we can have our lives in order, so that we can all contribute in this West Midlands where we all live in. So I'm not going to say a lot for now, unless if I'm asked again later, but I'll be available as well if there's any clarity or any questions that people will be having at a later stage. But if you're in the West Midlands and you have an organization, we urge you to please go to the website of StatusNow4All and join, so that you can also be one of the signatories. As of now, we have uh, about 150 organizations that have joined. So the more we get, the better our voices can be heard. That is where I'll end up for now. And thank you for having me. And happy International Migrants Day.
Thank you, Faith. Yes, we've had, as Status Now, we've had some events that have been held on a national basis, if you like, and we heard from Miriam at one of those, didn't we? She's who's been here for so long, and yeah, life was quite difficult for her, isn't it? As it is for a lot of people who don't have status. Thank you. Right, Tony, and after Tony, I'm going to ask Lorraine if she would like to say something.
Thanks very much, Sheila, and thanks very much to Faith as well for opening up. Um, I'm actually speaking on behalf of PCS today, and I'm really pleased to be doing so, because the PCS represents a significant number of people who actually work in the Home Office, and therefore many of the people represented on this call will come across PCS members in a very bad way. But the reason I'm pleased to be doing it is because our National Executive Committee a couple of Thursdays ago actually agreed to sign up to StatusNow. And I think that's quite a significant event. I think we're the fourth union to do so. And what we're keen to do is get more unions involved. But as Sheila said, I also wanted to say a few words about the day itself. If we look back at 2020, there were 281 million people were international migrants, and that actually represents just short of 4% of the global population. So International Migrants Day, which is backed by the UN General Assembly, took into account back in the 4th of December 2000, the large and increasing number of migrants in the world, and proclaimed the 18th of December as International Migrants Day. The day was selected to mark the anniversary of the 1990 adoption by the UN General Assembly and the International Convention on Protection of Rights of all migrant workers and members of their families. On September 14th and 15th, 2006, 132 member states took part in a high-level dialogue conducted by the General Assembly on international migration and development, and they reaffirmed the key messages there. So this year, in terms of the theme, International Migrants Day is commemorated with harnessing the potential of human mobility. Now, I don't want to say much more than that, but I do want to contrast it very briefly with what this government is actually doing at the moment, because whilst Britain is a signatory to that UN declaration, its actions don't walk the walk. The Nationality and Borders Bill, which is going into the House of Lords early next year for its final reading, makes significant changes to the UK asylum system and significantly curtails the rights of refugees. It represents a fundamental challenge to the principle of refugee protection in the UK, introducing a two-tier system where any refugee reaching the country who has not benefited from a place on a resettlement programme may have their claim deemed inadmissible and may be expelled to another country. And the reason I counterpose this with the statement that Britain supposedly has signed up to, because unusually, the UN Refugee Agency has taken the unusual step of strongly and publicly opposing the plans, stating in its response to the consultation on them that the UNHCR is concerned that the plan, if implemented as it stands, will undermine the 1951 Convention and International Protection System, not just in the world, but globally. And that shows the sort of opposition that the government's putting forward to its own declarations, both in 1951 and in 2000 as well. Now, I think, and PCS thinks, that we've got to change the narrative on these arguments. We've got to start talking about people as people, not defining them as them or as migrants or refugees, but defining them as people. And therefore, we've actually got to start challenging that government policy directly. And we need to do more than just oppose the bill through legal action. So I would hope that next year, and I'll end on this rallying call, Sheila, that we can get organisations like StatusNow, trade unions, Stand Up to Racism, I know involved in this call as well, to join together to start to push back against the government's actions that will discriminate against, well, just short of 2 million people that live in Britain at the moment. Thanks very much, Sheila.
Thank you, Tony. And I think the involvement of the unions has been very significant, because this issue is about all of us. The reason that getting to a position where people have settled status is so important is because it makes the world a better place for everybody. It might make a better place for certain people, but everybody's going to benefit from that. We would say it's just the way forward. You know, there are lots of organisations that are banding together to try and oppose bits of the bill that's being discussed at the moment. It goes to the Lords on the 5th of January. And some of those organisations are looking at maybe the right to work or other things, but indefinite leave to remain is the status that will give people the confidence and security to come out and to engage in life as everybody else does. Right, thank you, Tony. Lorraine, I'm going to pass over to Lorraine, and then after Lorraine, I'm going to ask Danny to speak. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I'll start by reading a small poem inspired by Tony's speech, where he's saying, we need to treat people as people. We need to remove labels as migrants, as this and the other, as asylum seeker and that. So this poem is called Our Wish is to be Human Again, a person without labels. Our wish is to be human again, a person without labels, to be released from the fear of confronting those we run away from. Our wish is to be human again, a person without labels. Asylum seeker carries with it a lot of connotations: poor, charity case, illegal, etc. Our wish is to be human again, a person without labels. The word person is erased and taken over by the asylum seeker. Our wish is to be human again, a person without labels. So that's my short poem. So what I want to share with you today is, as I was reflecting on International Migrants Day today, Priti Patel often talks about how she wants to fix a broken system, and yet we all know that her strategy is not there to fix it, but to make it worse. She has forgotten that she's a daughter of refugees. She has forgotten that she has forgotten her roots. If she had a thread of humanity in her heart, she has forgotten that too. As Status Now for All, what are we saying? We are calling for an indefinite leave to remain for everyone. Is it radical? Of course it is. Why not? It's better to be radically humane than radically inhumane. We are told to go for the 20-year route. And sorry, I have got it like a sore throat. And for the 20-year route, we need to prove each of the years that you have been here where you are undocumented. How the hell can anyone do that? One of my friends here in Coventry, he chooses, I'm saying he chooses because it's hardly a choice. He chooses to sleep rough rather than sleep in a house because the space he occupies at night is so small that he can't even stretch his legs throughout the night. In the morning when he wakes up, he can't walk. Does that remind you of anything? For me, it reminds me of the slave ships, where my ancestors were crammed at the bottom of the deck. Recently, if all of you remember, there was a petition where over 100,000 people signed for leave to remain, to give leave to remain to undocumented people, but it has been ignored. Why? Because our lives don't matter. And at the moment, we're in the midst of Omicron pandemic, but asylum seekers are still being made homeless again. There has been a talk about no one is safe until everyone is safe. In a hostile environment, such statements is just a hollow statement. There are two types of people in this country. One, people who defy the hostile environment. Either they are migrants who refuse to play the racist games, and the people who show solidarity with us, protesting and providing practical support. The second group of people is the government, who are drowning in their own sea of lies. And ultimately, we are a way more, we are more than them. We are more powerful and united than they are, but they are better organized, and so we are fighting an uphill battle. But we have won in the past, and we can win this too if we all come together. Just the fact that I'm speaking here today from Coventry is an act of defiance as well as collective resistance. The hostile racist system needs to change. It needs to be built on dignity and not hate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorraine. And obviously people will be aware of the dire system that we have here. I first became involved with people who were in the asylum system in 2001, and it felt awful then, but it's clearly getting much, much worse. And this hostile system that's promoted by the government is outrageous. Thank you. Right, I'm going to call on Danny next, and then after Danny, I'll call on Salman. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila, and thank you, Lorraine. It's really tough to follow that. Very eloquent, very powerful, and inspiring speech there. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Councillor Danny Myers. I'm Assistant City Mayor at Leicester City Council, which essentially means that I serve on the directly elected City Mayor's Cabinet. although my responsibilities don't directly relate to refugee and asylum seekers, I'm also a trustee for the Leicester City Sanctuary here as well. So I think coming back to what Tony was saying as well around changing the narrative in Leicester does feel a little bit different to possibly a lot of other places in the country. Leicester's one of the most diverse cities in the UK outside of London. I think it's the most diverse. It's one of the most diverse cities on the planet. It's one of the youngest, fastest growing cities in the planet in the country, and that's because people are arriving here from within the country and all over the world because of the diversity of the city and because of the different communities from all over the world that live here. And this is something we're incredibly proud of. It's part of our civic identity. It's part of how we recognise and celebrate our city. And we're, as a result, our political culture might not necessarily reflect the political culture of elsewhere in the country, which is turning a blind eye to the hostile environments that Lorraine had talked about. And that's why we were very, very happy to support the Status Now campaign and lend our voice and weight to any kind of support really for the awful situation that's being created by this government. I think what's, from our point of view as a local authority, what we're incredibly concerned about is that we want anyone that is living in Leicester to have full access to human rights. It's disappointing that, in a way that, Lorraine was right to say, being radically humane. Well, it shouldn't be considered radical. These are battles that we won in the post-war with the, and cemented with things like the Human Rights Act under the last Labour government. And this is, what we need to, there's this every change that seems to come in, whether it's how the Afghan refugees were handled and the distinctions that then created within the refugee and asylum seeker community. Every change seems to open the door to leaving more people exposed to that hostile environment that we've talked about, and exposed to finding themselves in a situation which is coldly described as having no recourse to public funding, which essentially means they're robbed of their human rights. That's what no recourse to public funding means. It means that they lose the right to work. It means they lose the right to healthcare, the right to education, the right to a voice within the society that they live in. And that's not what we want to see in Leicester. We want anyone that's living in Leicester to have the full set of human rights and access to services that anyone that's living in the city should have. And so we're determined and very keen to support any campaign that provides that, and Status Now does do that. Leicester is being used by the Home Office, and when it's one of those double-edged swords. We welcome it because we know that Leicester is a good place for people to start hopefully a life in the UK, precisely because of the kind of social infrastructure and the communities that are here in Leicester. It makes it probably a better place for people to originally arrive. But we're aware that there are hundreds of people within the city that are living here who we're not made aware of, that are being looked after, so-called, by the Home Office or effectively Serco, who are denied access to the support that we can offer and those services that I've talked about, whose mental health and well-being we're incredibly concerned about. And there is nothing in the legislation that's coming, or nothing in the practice that we have to deal with on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, which suggests that this situation is going to get any better. Like Lorraine and Tony and Faith have said, we've got to kind of come together, and we've got to become a really powerful, united voice. This government is obviously struggling and failing on a number of fronts. We need to make sure that the government's failure to deal with this effectively or humanely is part of that narrative of a failing government, rather than something they fall back on to sort of to play the dead cat and use refugees and asylum seeker policy as a means of diverting attention away and pandering to that kind of horrible populism that this country and others have had to endure. So it's really, sort of great that we can all be here today. It's really great that we've got this campaign that we can have as an umbrella to try to change that narrative, and hopefully other cities and other political organisations will join this support. It has gathered a good deal of good set of numbers there, but we need to, we need more. We need more support, and we need to be louder, because what this government is doing is appalling.
Thank you, Danny. And again, people who are in a position to be able to speak out, as councils are, very, very important to the campaign for Status Now. And just to pick up on something that Danny touched on, which was about the Afghani people from Afghanistan who've come recently, some under one set of status rules and some without. Nigel Farage actually supports Syrian refugees because they're real refugees. We need to be so careful about creating divisions among people who need status. And one of the things about Status Now is that we are a very broad organisation. There are people within our organisation who have come to study and for all sorts of reasons are still here. There are other people who are in the asylum system. There are other people who've been brought here. And international migration isn't always about choice. The people who've been brought here to work as domestic servants, really, and who have found themselves without status. So everybody is considered to be in need of status. And so we welcome your support for that. Thank you. Right, I'm going to ask Salman to speak next. After Salman, if you want to say something, maybe you could put your hand up and I'll try and get to you. Oh, Salman looks cold. Hi, Salman. Are you all right?
Right.
Yes. We'll let you go now. Yeah, thanks.
Right, yeah, I'm going to be very brief. Can everyone hear me all right? Yeah, everyone, can you hear me all right? Yes. All
Yeah,
right,
we're
cool.
fine, thanks, Salman.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is a couple of things. The first thing is, and it kind of saddens me to say this, but we're kind of losing at the moment because the new immigration rules have been voted in overwhelmingly. The political opposition, in a sense that well, not political, I'd say the what's the word, parliamentary opposition has been lukewarm, to say the least. They're now looking at getting rid of the Human Rights Act, and if you look at the trajectory, it's looking likely, you know, the way that the voting figures have been going on. But saying that, we're not losing completely, and it's become a bit of a guerrilla war with us and them, in a sense that a lot of the campaigns, individual campaigns we've been running, Espoir, Naz, recently, Bashir, and some of the others, we've won the cases, yeah? And we haven't won them as individuals. We haven't won them as like clever solicitors. We've won them collectively by getting people to sign petitions, getting people to hold signs, getting people to protest. We've got 2 campaigns at the moment. Lewin, Jamaican guy who's got cancer, who's only got a year to live if he's returned to Jamaica. We've got a woman called Gurmit Kaur, another elderly woman from India. These are both Commonwealth citizens, but, you know, the campaign's going to be during the Commonwealth in Birmingham. We're going to say, where's the Commonwealth? And this is not a game. And what we're going to try to do is get a lot of Commonwealth citizens who are not athletes to go to the games and start protesting and basically stirring up a bit of trouble, because that's what we're all about. We need to, you know, create trouble. We need to create waves. We need to resist. And we can win these individual battles and then start to turn those individual battles into a collective discussion about, well, you know, what is immigration? What is all this about? Because the reality, and Lorraine touched on it, and I think it's very powerful to say this, the reality is this: people are here. They're not going anywhere. They refuse to go anywhere. And that is an incredible act of defiance, because in a sense, if people like Lorraine gave up, put their hands up, signed to go back, sat on the airplane and went home, you know, I'd have nothing to organise around, you know. But because people like Lorraine and others are incredibly defiant, incredibly militant, incredibly rebellious, we can win. You know, we can fight and win. And I'll finish on a story. And if anybody's heard of Marcus Riddicker, you must find him. Yeah, he's done extensive history on this. You know, how slaves rebelled against slavery, and you know, 1 in 10 slave ships rebelled against, you know, they fought back, they fought the slave owners. So you imagine if 1 in 10 workplaces went on strike in the UK, that would be a virtual general strike. So that would be absolutely incredible if that happened. And it did happen under some difficult circumstances. But like I said, I'll finish on this one story. It was a story, there was a slave and he grew his fingernails. He was on one of the ships and he grew his fingernails so long that he cut his own throat. And before he cut his own throat and died, he said, "You don't own me." And when he did that, hundreds of years ago, a politician got up in Parliament when he was trying to argue against slavery, and a fight broke out in Parliament over that story, like, you know, a fisticuff fight, yeah. And that part of that chain of events ended slavery. So on the one hand, you think 200 or 300 years ago, this guy cut his own throat and he probably thought this is the beginning and the end of this story, but actually it wasn't. And we're talking about it now on Zoom in 2021. And that is the power of individuals, and that is the power of resistance. And, you know, I'll just finish on that, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Salman. Good one. Yes, working together is really important. And as Lorraine said, some people might consider that the campaign that's running here is a bit pie in the sky, but actually blue skies thinking means that we're thinking about what it could be like. And with political will, it could be like that. Absolutely. And we do know that some organisations have decided perhaps to delay joining the campaign because they feel that it's not going to go anywhere. We know that some of those have rethought that and have actually joined up with Status Now. On the website, the website address has been put in the chat earlier. On the website, you will find a list of the organisations. There are also a lot of posts with different themes. So please feel free to have a look at that. Right, I'm just checking the chat. Ibrahim, you've put a message there. Did you want to speak? I don't know, Ibrahim, whether you wanted to speak. Not yet. Okay, that's fine. Nobody else has put their hand up yet that I can see. Is there anybody else who's got something they would like to say or any questions? The other thing that Crichton's got his hand up. Crichton. Oh, Crichton is part of Status Now and does an awful lot of work up in Scotland. You're very welcome. It's lovely to see you. After Crichton, we'll have Marianne. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I've got a question to Councillor Danny. And maybe I'll have a follow-up question after you respond to that. And first of all, thank you so much for supporting campaigns like Status Now. I'm just wondering, apart from supporting campaigns, is there anything your council is actually doing either to ease the burden on people without status or actually pushing for status?
Yeah, I'll happily share the kind of support that a number of teams offer to, you know, in a number of ways as a council. Obviously, we pushed hard to make sure that we were given responsibility and the resources to, for example, to manage the people arriving from Afghanistan who are being sort of based in Leicester before they are given permanent residency elsewhere in the country or perhaps in Leicester. And we have asked for exactly the same to be done for all the people that the Home Office are holding in hotels managed by Serco in the city as well, which amounts to another 200 odd people. So we're very keen to have, and we're, I think, also the second highest city in the country in terms of participants in terms of the refugee and asylum settlement scheme more nationally. So there's absolutely, you know, sort of as much as we can commit, because obviously we're being cut like every other local authority and every other public service. But, you know, we've maintained both the political and financial and service commitment, I think, more than most other local authorities, and we're sort of very proud and happy to do so, and are always asking to take on more responsibilities, because we feel that whoever's in the city are better looked after if we're responsible for it than Serco. So I suppose that's but in addition to that, there is a whole raft of things that, from, you know, support services we offer And you know, I can't list them all right now, but I'm happy to sort of pull that together and share with the network in the new year.
Yeah, and okay, I mean, I find that the role of councils is very crucial when it comes to look after their residents. So I'll probably just share an idea, probably you already know about, and some other councils. By the way, I like what someone said. There's always something that we can do to change situations. There are what are called sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities in some cities in Europe. We talk about that in the UK as well. But we have got sanctuary cities in the United States. And most of the sanctuary cities in the States, they are basically what they call, you have rights based on your residence. So you have rights-based residence. And I think it's something probably that we need to explore in the UK. And in these cities where your rights are based because you stay there, they basically offer local identities, IDs. So people in those cities can get a job, can access healthcare, can apply for rent just because they've got an ID, which is locally based IDs. So it's a rights-based residence permit. I think probably something that councils in the UK can explore. I mean, councils which really want to support undocumented migrants, because one more key issue about being undocumented is the lack of an ID. You can't access employment, you can't access healthcare, you can't rent a house just because you don't have an ID. So what sanctuary cities have done in the States, they give their own people in their cities their own IDs, and that they are pretty much free like everybody else. And of course, they should be free. You see, I'm just sharing this thought because I think if the national governments are stubborn, local governments and their councils who are really in good faith wants to really to help people, they must do something to actually ease the burden on the undocumented people residing in their communities.
Yeah, it's a really interesting idea. I'll look into it. I know I'd happily. It'd be great if you could share some more information with the network, and then I can sort of feed that.
I would definitely be happy to share that, because
that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Because it brings freedom to many people who are undocumented in societies. I know the UK has at large, IDs are a big issue. They are refused, but it's something that can really help undocumented people having freedom to get a job, access healthcare. If really councils can come together and agree to give their residents their own identities, IDs.
I think just to manage expectations, I would assume, because this country is so centralized, that we haven't got the powers to make that offer in the same way that other European countries, which are much more devolved, and certainly the United States, where each individual state is obviously has much more autonomy. Well, like I say, I'll happily look into it, and there might be others on the call who would have more expertise in this, but I don't know if we've got the agency to be that autonomous, if you see what I mean. I think we might run into legal issues, but it's again, I think one of the points I wanted to make in response to the recent speakers was around, we've got a new shadow Home Secretary in Yvette Cooper, who was brilliant, brilliant and tore the Home Secretary apart when she was chair of the Home Office Select Committee. So she's definitely got the right attack lines. What she needs is obviously the right policies, and the StatusNow, there's a lobby there. There's the idea about cities of sanctuary, I think, is a good one, because I think that's actually, could be part of a longer term policy, in fact. But yeah, I'll have a look into it. But like I say, I suspect what I've learned being a local councillor for the last 5 or 6 years is that we are so centralised, and we rely so much on power given to us by Westminster, and they tend not to give it a huge amount. And to be fair, that's both left and right governments, actually, frustratingly, from my point of view. So it would be lovely as well as if we're moving away from this current government, that whatever next future government looks into is to devolve a little bit more responsibility as well to local authorities, and certainly there's lots of opportunities to do that around a fair and humane policy around refugee and asylum seekers as well.
Thank you, Crichton, for your questions. Thank you, Danny, for your answers. And I mean, certainly our national laws would preclude any local authority giving people the right to work if it's not considered to be legal within the national framework. But I guess one of the things that Crichton's talking about is councils coming together to give an alternative plan and to say this is how it could be, which would be great. The other thing that I would say is that Crichton is a very good writer, and you'll find quite a lot of his work on the StatusNow website. So Crichton, if you get inspired to write something along those lines, please feel free. That would be great. We'll watch out for that. And it's really important for councils. I mean, Leicester City Council, I think, is the only council that's signed up to the StatusNow campaign. And there may be other council or councillors who are sympathetic. But for those councillors to also have a forum where they can talk to each other is very important. And I know that Danny is making links like that. But if you are not in Leicester, I happen to live here, but if you're not in Leicester and you think your council might be minded to look at that, please do get in touch. And I'm sure Danny would be happy to talk to people. Thank you very much. Right, I just want to check with, I see Olivia, I see your hand is up, but Mariam, you were going to say something, but I think your hand's gone down. So what I'm going to do is come to Olivia. Would you like to take the next slot? Thank you.
Oh,
And then
thank you so much.
That's fine.
I was struggling with this technology, but well, we have to bear with each other and to, yeah, I tried, but what is happening? I want to lower the hand so that, yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Lorraine. You invited us. I think you sent this morning, and well, whenever I'm in such spaces, I'm only crying because this is my life. This is my life. But I have to be strong because when I see people like all of you, then I know, okay, there's someone who is caring and who can really stand with me and to walk with me in the shoes. I just wanted to thank everyone who is contributing and who is really for us. And I want to just make one or two contributions. The first one maybe would come with the IDs Crichton is saying, talking about, okay, these IDs, I think the whole thing about this government is not like they don't want people to, they don't know that people can do something. Okay, the undocumented people seeking asylum can do. I think they just don't want them to engage, just to leave them in, just to frustrate us, just to break us down and say, no, one day they'll all give up. Yeah. And it's just that when you have like a heavy stone put on your head, someone killing you slowly, pushing you down the drain slowly, that is what this government is doing. They know people are here, they are qualified, they've got the skills, but they just, I don't know what they have in, is it maybe they're proud, or they just want to frustrate people, to kill people slowly, or that is up to them. So just take that one. And then the other thing is, Lorraine, you mentioned about Priti Patel, that Priti Patel has what? Is a daughter of a refugee. She has forgotten her roots. Probably she's got no thread of humanity. Yeah, I noted down everything. But I just want to say, it's not Priti Patel alone. If only we managed, like Salman said, that small, if we all managed to look at that majority who voted the bill, and we just get research of each and every one, and we look at their roots, and we start from there, one by one, we start to like getting, either writing an article about each of them, how even some of them, you might find that some of them even came to this country maybe in lorries, or even in baskets, or even on the boats, but because they are now rich, they are just there to make sure that, okay, I'm getting my job. They tick all the boxes. Okay, we are all voting. Everyone is saying we will have to do this. They have all forgotten. If we could do something about that, that's the only way maybe we can get wake them up and say, okay, please look at the history. Otherwise, everything we are not giving up. That's the good thing, at least, that even when we are not, little by little, I'm sure we shall do something. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Olivia. I think you're absolutely right that the hostile environment is set up to partly as a way to say to people don't come, but also to get people to leave the country again. And it is terrible. And also that we are very much in the UK still influenced by Margaret Thatcher's philosophy that the person that's most important in this life is yourself, really, me. And when people do come, I think they come sometimes with quite a lot of baggage. They've had a really bad history, but once they start to feel secure, then the bit about wanting to survive and forgetting about being part of humanity seems to leave them. But the other big problem is that this government is there because people voted for it. People from this country voted for it. And I don't know what the answer to that is. And Priti Patel is there because she's allowed to be there. Boris Johnson's there at the moment because he's allowed to be there. But it's not right, and that's what we need to change. But as a number of people have said, working together and bringing us together is what makes us strong. Right, I know Mariam's back. She wants to go out, so I'm going to ask Mariam if she would speak next. Mariam is from our Northwest branch, so it's lovely to have you with us. Thank you, Mariam.
I think she was saying that she couldn't unmute, but she requested, I think, the host maybe to unmute her. She was struggling. I think I read something. She was struggling to unmute herself.
Oh, right. Okay. I've just sent a message asking her to unmute. Mariam, if you can't get through on that, I'm really sorry. Though I don't think there's anything else we can do from our end because you've not been muted by us. Just give it a minute. Just in this pause, just to say, building on Lorraine's poetry, Lorraine has some fantastic poetry. She has her own YouTube channel. Hopefully we'll soon have her own webpage where you can hear her poetry. But what her poetry does is to wake people up. The arts wakes people up in your hearts and minds in ways that other things don't. And it's a reminder, because poetry can always change. It can be about all sorts of things. I have contact with a lot of musicians who have come as people in the asylum system who are fantastic musicians. People come with their talents. There are some men who were in Penally camp who are called the camp. They were called the camp residents of Penally and are now Life Seekers Aid, and they have an art exhibition which is travelling the country, and it's artwork provided by people who are have been in the system, which is great.
Sheila, can you hear me now?
Ah, brilliant. Hiya. Yeah. Welcome.
I had to log out and log in again.
You take the floor then, Mariam.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the chance. And I want to thank everyone for your contribution, and Lorraine for all the time you have always giving, powerful poems. At the click of the finger, you have a poem at hand. Well done, and keep going. So I just want to share, I think, from myself and maybe the concerns I hear from other women in my organization feel, what Faith had said about people living, like she gave an example of Miriam living here over 20 years. We've got other women as well who've been here for over that much period of time. They've made this their home and they've built lives. And I'm also going to comment on Salmon's, when Salmon said about the little petitions we've won. So it's not doom and gloom, although it's really demoralizing, especially when the the bill went through the committee stage and, it was voted for. That really put our hopes and dashed. And not saying that it's all good, that it's all bad. It's even worse, because I was feeling in the pandemic, the last 2 years, there's been a challenge. We've been campaigning through these challenges. We are having protests, but the government takes a step higher to bring the bill and all the law, that's going to become law. They don't look at the humanity, like what Lorraine had shared in her speech. They should look at safety first, and then they think of bringing the bill through, because people are tired, people are dying, people are suffering. That should be the concern of the government. How do we protect our people? Instead of bringing the bill and arguing in parliament, honestly, what kind of a government does this? As much as we would like to campaign and protest, people just lose will to live, because already they are pushed to the wall, and now where do they go? So I think maybe next year we will, people seeking asylum, they will come up and say, okay, it's not much is not lost, although everything is lost, we should just come and campaign. And the status for now, the status now for all, as you said, Sheila, that people think probably is unachievable. This is the time that people seeking asylum should come together and, protest, write petitions, and do something, because we see a shortage of work staff that is there. We need to write to the government and say, look here, yes, it is bad. You are doing this bad, but this is what should be done. We should not give up hope. And if we encourage other members to do that, I think we will get somewhere. But it's like me, after I saw the committee, I think I really felt really down. I don't know how to explain it, but I just felt that actually, should I do anything more? But probably in the new year, we'll have recovered and we bounce back, and we are resilient anyway. We bounce back and continue. Sorry for the long speech, sorry.
Thank you, Mariam. And we don't know, do we, what seeds we're planting when we go out and talk to people, whether we do it on Zoom or in face-to-face, or if it's writing a letter or writing an article. Those seeds can come to fruition, and some things take a long, long time to change. We want it now, but if we work together, it will come. Tony's put in a note in the chat inviting people who are part of trades unions to have a look at the proposed motion, or a motion that could be used if people want to do that. So please do have a look at that on the website, or get in touch with Tony. Can I just ask Faith if you've got something else you want to say, Faith, because you were the first one. We've just she might just have got busy with something, because we've only got 6 minutes left. So I just wanted to give Faith the time to come back in if she wants to. What I will do is ask Lorraine if she could read us another poem. And if after that Faith is ready to speak, I'll invite her. If not, I'll just pull things to a close at that point. So Lorraine, if you want to give us another poem, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheila. So when I was listening to Mariam speaking, you talked about people are giving up, people are dying. This poem is also called We Are Dying. I wrote this poem when I was reading, there was a lot of asylum deaths throughout the pandemic, some dying in hotels, some committing suicide, and at the same time, we've been waiting for some inquest for a number of asylum seekers that have died in the past. For example, like the asylum seeker who was killed when the Home Office raided a filling station where he was working illegally, and because in the course of running away, he fell from there and he died on the spot. So people have been waiting for an inquest from 2018 But of course, I think it came through towards the end of this year. So that's when I wrote this poem, thinking about all things that happen, and at the same time we are seeking for answers and explanations about all these deaths. So it's called We Are Dying. We are dying in isolation, alone and forlorn, with not much change, with not much hope. Even in death, they don't matter. We are dying. There's no inquest, there's no investigation. Like a useless life has deservedly just gone, and no one needs to know. We are dying. Our trauma is always downplayed. Wars and bullets we witnessed and abuse flying towards us have made us feel unworthy, unloved, and undeserving. We are dying. We leave behind orphaned children paralyzed by their meaninglessness of their own lives. Everything about us is ignored. We are dying. The hand of oppression is heavy, but it needs not muscles to lift it off. Come out, shout, sing the names loudly of the deceased. Let the world know that they too once walked this earth. Say their names loudly, remind the world of lives cut short, lives that mattered to us. We are dying. Beat the drums loudly, drum the call with a siren, not to a wall, but to a new level of consciousness that says, we are humans too, although the hostile environment says we are not. That we sing in defiance and call for recognition that our lives matter. If not to anyone, to us. Break the silence. We too are humans, documented or not. Spread the message of love. We are dying. We are dying. We are dying. Thank you.
Powerful stuff, Lorraine. Thank you. And love is the way. Absolutely, love is the way. I'm going to ask Faith just to have the last word in just a minute. But before she does that, thank you very much to everyone who's helped put today together. Thank you so much to people for coming. It's lovely to see you, and not everybody got a chance to speak today. I'm hoping that people who did want to say something actually got that opportunity. Do have a look at the website, and hopefully we'll see you again. And if you've got any other ideas about things that you'd like us to do, Zoom makes it so easy for us. It's much more accessible than having to hire a hall and all that sort of stuff. So if you've got ideas about things you might want to hear about or talk about, let us know. And yes, thank you very much, as people are saying, for those powerful words and inspiring actions that people are putting together. And Faith is chair of our meetings, and it just seems right to hand to her for the last word. And when Faith's finished, then we'll end the meeting. Thank you very much. Faith, you're on mute.
Okay. Hi, I just want to take this time to thank everybody that logged on today, because, yeah, as Lorraine was saying, there's days when you don't even know if you can wake up, because it's not an easy trip that we are on, or it's not an easy journey. So I just want to motivate the people there, because sometimes really when you think you cannot lose hope, and we have to look how far we've come in this trip, in this journey. We have to look at the distance that we've walked, at the years that we have wasted, where we have not been productive, where we have not done what we have done under normal circumstances, if our lives were normalized. And we just have to have faith that, that we must not lose hope. We must keep fighting, and then one day everything will be okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. Thank you, everybody, and hope to see you all soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Cheers.
much.
Thank you, everybody.
Stay safe. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Well done, everybody.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to people for speaking. That was very powerful.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well facilitated.